No one remembers Earth, not truly. Among the stars, the word Terran is spoken with a mixture of reverence and fear, but the planet itself is forgotten. It no longer appears on star charts. The coordinates are scrubbed from archives. Even the mention of its name stirs political discomfort in the Galactic Alliance. It's been like that for thousands of years. Earth, once a beacon of chaos and brilliance, was locked away in memory. Too dangerous to remember, too powerful to forget. But everything changed the day a forgotten fleet emerged from the Veil Nebula. It was a strange arrival. The ships were old, by modern standards primitive. Their designs looked like they were carved from memory and desperation. They bore no known crest, no familiar transponder codes. Yet their presence radiated a strange gravity, not physical, but emotional. These were not pirates, not merchants, not pilgrims. They called themselves humans. Their leader was an older woman, face scarred with time, voice weathered like ancient stone, and yet her eyes held something none of the assembly had seen in generations. A fire. She stepped forward without fear, looked across the grand halls of the Galactic Assembly, thousands of species watching in digital silence, and said, "We are the last children of Earth. We come bearing memory." The room buzzed with disbelief. Earth was legend. Earth was erased. But here stood beings who claimed to be its offspring, carrying not weapons, but a crystalline cube the size of a heart. They called it the Memory Core. Not a database, not a historical log, a living memory, encoded with feelings, experiences, music, pain, joy, fury, triumph, all the echoes of Earth. The Alari, a psychic species with a monopoly on mental projection, interfaced with the core. They expected fiction. What they saw nearly broke them. They saw oceans, roaring, endless, alive. They saw firestorms of war, then laughter in the ash, children playing in alleys, a kiss under a nuclear sky, protesters standing against tanks with empty hands, a violin playing in a ruined church, a rocket soaring beyond atmosphere while the earth turned blue beneath it. The emotions were raw and uncontrollable, unlike anything the hyper-regulated minds of modern species could handle. The Ilari trembled and collapsed under the weight of it. No one in the assembly had felt so deeply in eons. The galaxy had evolved into stability, perfect order, no hunger, no rage, no ambition. And yet here were humans, so imperfect, so volatile, offering not control, but passion. The Dravari Chancellor finally stood, his voice cold and mechanical. He revealed what many suspected, but no one dared say. Earth had not been lost. It had been hidden, erased from records on purpose. Humanity's emotional instability had once fractured the old order. The age of uprisings, the chaos that birthed modern law, all traced back to Terran influence. The Assembly voted to bury the source. Earth became taboo. But the humans didn't protest. They simply began to tell stories. Stories of how Earth was never united but always striving. Of how every generation faced its own extinction, of how it birthed monsters and then heroes to stop them, of how it poisoned its skies and then reached for the stars, of how a small blue world gave birth to empires, poets, genocides, and revolutions. Earth was contradiction. Earth was balance through imbalance. Earth was the chaos that made evolution necessary. They played a projection, not of facts, but feelings. The sound of thunder over the Amazon rainforest, the cold silence of Antarctica, the roar of engines in Formula One races, the heartbeat of soldiers in muddy trenches, the scream of metal at the moment of a rocket launch, and finally, the silence that followed when Earth itself could no longer sustain them. They had left, not in search of conquest, but to remember. Then a shadow fell over the Alliance. The Obsidian Swarm, an ancient hive-mind species thought extinct, attacked without warning. Their fleets consumed outer colonies with no regard for diplomacy. The Assembly hesitated. They debated. They filed motions. The humans did not wait. Without permission, the old Terran fleet launched a direct assault against the Swarm's core ships. Primitive weapons, outdated tech, suicidal tactics. But they fought like dying stars. They screamed their ancestors' names into the void. They sacrificed themselves with poetry on their lips and fury in their hearts. They were not efficient. They were effective. The swarm withdrew. Of the entire fleet, only one human vessel returned. Its hull was cracked, its crew devastated. The old woman, now burned and limping, stood once more before the assembly and said, "Earth was never just a place, it was a question. What can we become?" The vote was unanimous. For the first time in millennia, the Alliance acted without protocol. They restored Earth to the archives. Not because of its location, which was long destroyed, but because of what it meant. A terraforming mission was initiated, not to rebuild Earth as it was, but to honor what it represented. They constructed a new world, seeded with Earth's genetic code, its songs, its winds, its pain. They called it Terra Novum. Children of every species now visit Terra Novum. They touch the glass walls of memory vaults. They hear the hum of Earth's oceans. They feel rage and sorrow and hope for the first time in their lives. Above the gates of Terra Novum, carved in every language, is one phrase. We were forged in chaos. We became more. We are human. And across the stars, where memory once faded, the story of Earth burns again.